Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this December 6th, 2017 Commission meeting. Call this meeting to order. Ivy, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Here. Commissioner Creech?
Here.
Commissioner Day?
Here. You all join me for pledge of allegiance, followed by prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for everything that you give to us. We thank you for the wonderful holiday that we celebrated. We ask that you look over those out there traveling to and from. We ask that you be with our agricultural community as they finish up the harvest, bring them home safe to their families. We ask that you give us the guidance and wisdom to do what's right for Preble County, along with our state and national leaders. Help them to do what is right for our country. We also ask that you look over our men and women fighting for our freedoms. We ask that you look over those that are less fortunate, give them the light to see that there's a brighter day ahead. In your name, amen. On the agenda today, we have public comments. We have approval of minutes, financial considerations, agreements and contracts, meetings, 9:30. We have public hearings, zoning case for 1437, 1438, 1439, 1440, 1441, 1442, 1443, and 1445. 11 o'clock, Sheriff Simpson, ATGI, Timken Grant Project. Connie, do you have any additional items at this time?
Not at this time.
At this time, entertain any public comments. I will say that we're going to limit the public comments to 5 minutes apiece. So this time, would you state your name for the record so that we can record it?
Beth Cox. Good morning. I'm here today to ask 4 questions about the 911 dispatch merger. I would like to ask all 4 questions and then hear your answers if you would. I have written the questions down so you can go back and see them. Okay, this whole dispatch merger scenario reminds me of something that is happening in the United States right now. We have a federal investigation on Russian collusion that originated from the infamous Russian dossier that has since been proven to be made up and completely false. But here we are, on a trajectory with an investigation that is a complete waste of time, effort, and taxpayer money, not to mention the soiled reputations and ruined lives that should not have been. Now, the merger is not as serious as this, I admit. But let's be sure we aren't following the same pattern and rushing into something that may be unnecessary. Here's my first question. Did the conversation about the dispatch merger have its genesis in the belief that the state was mandating a change and that the merger was devised to accommodate that mandate? Now, I'm all for organization and efficiency. I even looked up the word efficient in the dictionary just to be sure that we're all on the same page about it. Here's the definition. Efficient is an adjective that means working or operating in a way that gets the results you want without any waste. And here's my second question. Will this merger be efficient? And if so, how will it provide better service for county taxpayers at a lower cost with no waste? Question number 3. Since the contract that you delivered to Eaton states that they will be paying into the dispatch service an increasingly diminishing amount for 3 years, how will that portion be paid for at the end of the 3 years? And are you willing to guarantee that there will not be a need for a dispatch levy in the future because of the deal that you made with the city? And question number 4. Why have there been no public meetings regarding this deal? And has there at any time been a situation where 2 commissioners have met with city employees to discuss this matter, not in a commission session, but outside of the courthouse? Thank you.
Terry Willis from Eaton. I just want to thank the commissioners for taking this 911 burden off our hands here in the city of Eaton. With all this newfound wealth, I'm sure they'll be ready to give our money back to us. Oh no, they won't either, will they? They'll probably spend that money on something else, and then you all are going to come back to us later with some kind of a levy and say, now we need money for the 911 support. So I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
William York, third. I want to know why, or what's in it for the city of Eaton, other than losing a huge expense and putting it on the backs of every single property owner and other citizen in Preble County, so that so that their burden is transferred to the county. It would make more sense to operate two different dispatch places in case one were to be damaged or destroyed by tornado, fire, or other natural disaster, instead of putting all your eggs in one basket and then expecting everyone in the county to pay so the city of Eaton gets a free ride. That's just not right. If the city of Eaton wants, from now into the end of time, want to pay for their share of the dispatch expenses, that's fine. It's what they should do. After all, a few years ago, they let Eaton Compressor run out of town. They said, no, we don't want an ethanol refinery. Loss of jobs, loss of this, loss of that, except for, retail, fast food, and car lots to generate tax revenue. Again, I'd like to know why the city of Eaton thinks that they deserve a free ride, and to put that burden, transfer that burden to every taxpayer in Preble County. And if they're successful in this, I think the two groups in this county that have opposed school levies successfully should band together and spread out and start pulling levies. Rescind the MRDD levy, rescind every single school income tax in this county, and push all of the schools down to the floor. If we're going to be made to bear the burden of city services, then I think we need to lighten our burden elsewhere.
Go ahead.
Good.
Guys, I have to echo what Beth said. I think there should have been more public meetings. I checked the agendas, I've read your comments on Facebook, and I've been insulting to say the least. But Greenville basically states the same issue. It's a safety issue, having two that vary in the same county. Right now, I understand the argument for two dispatchers on hand at the same time. You basically have that, except that I understand Eaton is now short because they're probably looking forward to this. In answer to your question, where did the city of Eaton get this? I asked the mayor in 2015. He got it from Rodney. Rodney based it on a mandate. There is no mandate. There has been no mandate. You've told us multiple times that it's coming down the line. We're 2.5 years down the line. There is still no mandate. There is still no. Has that changed? Is there a date? Anybody can give me a
talking about
mandate?
this for 20 years. 20 years is my understanding.
Within 20 years.
I didn't make it up in 2015, Jeff. I wish I did. It's been a great idea.
Well, if you go
But
back and look at the
I didn't
video,
invent
if
this.
you go back and look at the video, one of the stated claims was, we are doing this because of a mandate from by the mayor of Eaton, Mr. Wagner at the time, and he told him. Now, I understand, they can get something for nothing, and that's fine, okay? I understand Eaton jumping on that. Why we're getting involved with it is another issue. What are they gonna pay, $200,000 a year, something like that for a few years? And then after that, the county assumes it, is that correct?
You should have all the numbers.
Oh, you provided the numbers. Do you remember them? You just make them up from meeting to meeting. So we're just going to sit here and let everybody speak and not say anything. Is that it? I guess another thing that I take a little bit of offense to is the minutes of the August 9th meeting. Denise is asking for opening meetings and in an open setting with the public to be involved. Chris said, we did that the last time, it just turned into a big cluster. Well, no, because people got upset. They didn't want you to put, and you interrupted her. A bunch of people showed up that are uneducated. Do you care to identify who was uneducated, or is that just a blanket?
I think as today, there's a lot of people that show up that don't have all the information and data that we have. You read the
Well, I just asked
newspaper.
you for data, and you said you didn't have the
They read the
numbers.
newspaper or they read your Facebook page, and that's where they get their information. I would call that uneducated. Because have you met with the sheriff? Have you met with the sheriff, Jeff?
No, I actually saw him last week.
Have you met with the sheriff and discussed the 911 project?
No, but
Have
I
you
know
met with the
that you
city
have.
and
Are you
discussed-
aware of
Hold on.
roundabout? No, go ahead.
Have you met with the city and have you discussed the 911 project with them?
You did.
Where have you gotten all your information at?
Huh?
Where have you gotten all your information from the 911 dispatch?
I was very involved 2 years ago when it was
No,
2.5
I'm
years
talking about now. Where have you gotten all of your information?
off
Is
of
it-
these transcripts. Not much has changed. Your holdings. Let me put it this way.
That's my point.
No.
You haven't gotten any information. You're
These
hearing my point.
transcripts represent the official record of the Preble County Commission, of which you are a member. Now, let's put it this way. A round robin meeting is a violation of sunshine laws. In these transcripts, I have it here, I don't have the thing. If you go back to August 7th and August 9th, you will find it. You mentioned meeting with the same people Chris Day meets with, simply because, at different times, simply because you can't meet with them together. That's a round definition of a round robin meeting.
That's not.
Okay. I believe it is.
Push it.
Push it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done my research. You're just barking up the wrong tree, man.
Well, okay.
Just push it. Just
here's-
prove it and push it.
Here's
Go
my
ahead.
contention. Let me
Jeff,
give you another
you
contention.
come. I'm glad you finally came in here, but you're totally wrong.
I'm totally wrong.
Yes.
So, let me ask you this. The $200,000, whatever, that the county is going to be getting from the city of Eaton, I congratulate you for getting that for 3 years. After that time, the county assumes that responsibility. Okay. Now, as I understand it, there's also a loss of sales tax revenue or something because of the nursing homes, $500,000. Is that correct? NOC, something like NCO?
MCO.
So, am I to take it, we're going to replace, in 3 years, we're going to replace a $700,000 hit to the county budget with what?
$700,000.
Well, it's $500,000 for the one and $200,000 for the dispatch, that's $700,000 a year.
Yeah. I didn't know where you was going
That's
$700,000.
the Medicaid tax.
That's it.
Um,
And I don't have that. I was going by memory, which apparently you can't remember that much, but go ahead.
No, so
I did shake in your chain
Yeah.
and enjoying it.
Be honest.
So Chris is the president, you probably remember these numbers better than he does. Is it, am I accurate? Is it 500,000?
We stand to lose somewhere around 500,000 to 600,000, depending on their estimates, and that's still to be determined. That is something that the legislature is still wrestling with what they're going to do with.
Along with the mandate, but say that comes to pass, and you add this 200,000 that we're getting from Eaton that we won't be getting in 3 years, you'd be talking $800,000 a year hit to the budget. Any plans on replacing this money? No.
We'll just have to deal with it as we have in the past with other lawsuits.
Or we could retire or run for state office, I guess. Thank you for your time.
How many previously announced public meetings have you guys held about this 911 merger?
Talked about it in our chambers multiple times.
But did you announce it to the public and say, hey, we're wanting your opinion?
We've had it in here, it's in our minutes.
It's in the paper.
All right. Let's talk about this contract for a minute. So the city of Eaton's providing this somewhere around $200,000 for somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 years. Is this a 3-year contract that has a point where it ceases? Are we only assuming this position for 3 years, or is this something that goes on in perpetuity?
once we go down this path, it will go on perpetuity as long as that's what you're considering this.
So the contract doesn't have an opt-out clause in which you guys could walk out of this contract?
There's always an opt-out clause.
There is a portion of the contract that talks about if there's a hardship on the county.
Okay. Now, the previous gentleman mentioned something about a $500,000, possible $500,000 loss in revenue, as well as this $200,000, which I think that we probably all figure out this is $200,000 is going to exponentially grow higher. That coupled with the loss of the CAUV taxes, the decrease in those, I guess would it be prudent to say if we're going to absorb $700,000, we ought to be able to look at our county budget and say there's an extra $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 before we go spend $700,000. You know, before you spend it, make sure you're going to have it. I don't think it'd be, you know, a good idea for the county to spend this money without being for sure. It appears that if we would lose that $500,000 for the Medicare revenue, and then we would lose the CAUV taxes, which I think isn't huge, but you guys can probably tell me what the exact numbers are, but I think if you look at what came in your revenue in 2013 or 14 before this tax increase, you would see, you know, what the difference in property taxes are. And if you couple all that together, this county's heading for a bad road coming up, a tight budget, without tossing on another $200,000 exponentially, possibly more. And I just don't see the benefit to the county. I agree with the previous speakers. You know, look, in today's world, you know, we live in a pretty dangerous world where crazy things happen. Crazy people walk into the sheriff's department and shoot people. We had a guy walk in, what was it, 6 or 8 months ago, that shot himself. So who's to say he doesn't go to the dispatch? It's the first door when you walk in. It's the first place to get. So he walks into the dispatch center. Well, now the dispatch center's down with a fire. You know, these things happen. And I think it's causing more of a safety issue. The mandate wasn't to consolidate in small counties. The mandate you guys have spoke about was more for big counties like, say, Montgomery County or Hamilton County that has several different little entities all operating their individual things. That becomes an issue. When you got two, that's not slowing things down. You know, that's safety. You know, I don't think the federal government puts all their troops in one place. You know, that's just not how it goes. I don't know that, has this contract been shared with the public to review? Do you have a copy of it here we can all see?
Sure we do.
Can we get some copies before this open session ends? To read?
It's on the agenda.
The wording of the contract. The wording in the contract, it's on the agenda. The opt-out clause, every single thing is in the agenda.
Unless there's been public records requests made, then there hasn't been any public eyes on this contract.
I think where I'm going with that, Nathan, when I was talking to Mr. Golden, you can sit there and read that contract and you still don't have the numbers and the details and behind the, you know, the what's going on with the 911 between Eaton and the inefficiencies, the cost to the overall county. Let's keep in mind that Eaton is in Preble County. I keep hearing, you know, County Eaton, County Eaton. Eaton's in the county. So you can read that contract and you can come in here and say you're against it. But for the last 3 years, I can tell you, I've talked for every person that's in here, I've talked to 50, probably from 50 to 100 people, they're for it. So I appreciate it, you know, that you're against this. And, you know, when I ran for this job, I was told I wouldn't make everybody happy. Well, here you are. So, you know what, you can read the contract, You know, we've tried to cross paths multiple times to go over numbers. We've got all the data, we've got all the information. The sheriff, the chief is behind it. Most of the county's behind it. It makes sense. You can come in here and tell us we're idiots, that's okay. But all I'm
I'm
gonna
not
tell
saying
you
you're an
is,
idiot.
I've got all the information. Mr. Golden, I can tell you, does not have all the information.
You can't
But
even
he
quote
can
all
sit
the numbers.
there. He can sit there and he can say whatever he wants. But if you want the information, come to us. We'll get it to you. I'm an open book.
If there had
So-
been public meetings, if there had been public meetings like there should have been,
Yeah.
I think there should have been a public meeting with their board and us here, with us and their board in Eaton, then people would have the information. We should not be the keepers of the information. This information, everyone in this room should know this information.
And they can
And
have
if we
it.
had public meetings,
If you'd had public meetings,
Then-
you could
then
have
the public
avoided
would know
a
this
lot of
information.
this.
What, so you're set to vote on it today.
Yeah. and
Is
now
there any
you're-
mandate because it's on the agenda that you have to vote, or can you table it and give the information to the
I'm
public?
voting. We've waited too long.
See?
It's time to
This
get the
is-
ball rolling.
What's the hurry now?
See, when you say this is on public record,
Jeff, you need to come up.
yeah, okay, when you say it's been open to the public and it's in the minutes, people, these are the minutes, okay? The public agenda is posted for the public the day before, so they can know what's going to happen at the following day's commission meeting, Mondays or Wednesdays. From May 22nd, 2015 to September 25th, when the sheriff was in here, of this year, there's no mention of this, or any discussion on a merger.
We've talked about it so much.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah.
in your minutes.
In here.
And what she's talking about on August 7th and 9th was, we haven't had any open meetings. She even asked, when were these meetings held? And that's where you got into the thing, saying you were meeting with City of Eaton officials separately from Chris because you couldn't meet with them together. Now, that shows to me that you have a knowledge that you're doing something wrong.
Nah, not at all.
I'm
I'm out in the county every day talking to everybody. It's a small county, Jeff. We all know each other. I'm gonna talk to everybody, and I'm not violating the sunshine law, I can assure you that. Push it. Just go ahead and prove it, man. If you think you're so right, because I'm guaranteeing you're wrong.
Read the code. Why would-
I guarantee
It is-
I've done nothing wrong.
All right. Thank you.
I do my due diligence and research, and you should appreciate that, because I spend a lot of time working for this county. Spend a lot of time.
Spend some time putting the stuff on the agenda and you have more people in attendance.
When I was previously here, I think about a month ago, I asked if you guys had put all these numbers on a spreadsheet or some kind of thing to look at to give the public. Has that been done?
I'm not sure. What are you talking about?
So
We've got
all your costs, has the sheriff provided you just with the total cost, or has he provided you with the breakdown cost? Has the city provided you with the total cost, or have they provided you with the breakdown cost? Now, you've mentioned that this is actually, have we seen that?
I forgot to mail it to you. I mean,
You need my address?
come in here and ask for it.
I guess we're not in.
I am here and asking for it right now.
I'm telling you.
All right, right now, we're going to,
I still got questions.
we're going to cease public comments right now. You've gone over your 5 minutes. We can.
Well, time out.
No,
Mr. Golden
time-
had about 3 of my
no,
minutes.
time out right here.
And
I'm in
Rodney had a
charge.
couple of
Hey,
mine, but go
I'm in
ahead.
charge of the meeting.
Okay.
We have business to take care of. We will revisit this when we get down to it.
Okay.
But at this point in time, we have zoning hearings and we need to respect their time.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the dispatch agreement with the city of Eaton regarding consolidation of dispatch. Discussion.
I'll go first. If this were a true partnership, I would fully support this contract. But since the intent of everyone involved is to move the burden of the obligation of the city dispatch into the county budget at the end of the 3 years, I cannot support it. I'm perplexed as to why we would intentionally put the county in harm's way fiscally by agreeing to take on the city's obligation for non-emergency dispatch for free. We have never dispatched for them, and their size and tax base have always justified the separation. As they grow, their tax base will continue to grow, which is a great thing. But our expense for the dispatch would also continue to grow and put us further down the path of draining the county's general fund. Taking into consideration that we will be receiving less sales tax from the state, and further understanding that my fellow commissioners would like to end the city's contribution, it would not take long before our cash balance could be at a dangerous low. Until recently, I thought we viewed the cash balance as protection against another economic downturn. The economy ebbs and flows, and with a strong balance, we could give the county some time to adjust our spending to protect the county from any natural consequences of bad national or state economies like we saw in 2008. From the beginning of the dispatch merger discussion, it was the agenda of some to put a tax levy on the ballot to pay for it. That agenda is what was brought forth by Commissioner Wessler when he attended the meeting 4 years ago. To say now that is no longer the plan seems to be misleading when the mayor was quoted, the Mayor of Eaton, was quoted in the paper recently as saying, why don't we bounce this back to the taxpayers? I'm always being accused of not meeting with this or that person to discuss county business, and I can tell you why I don't do that. It's not proper for me to negotiate for the commission board with another party because I'm only one voting member of a 3-person board. It would be improper and unethical for me to go to the villages to discuss the possibility of county taxpayer commitment to pay for something that's their responsibility. All meetings should be held with both parties in a public setting, otherwise it becomes a bunch of shady backroom deals. As elected officials, we represent the taxpayers and we should not operate in this way. Although I wish to maintain a working relationship with other elected officials and the Eaton Council, my goal is not to be friends with them. It is hard to tell your friends no, and easier to be influenced in a way that may be detrimental to the financial health of this county. So going forward, I will make sure that the county taxpayers, especially the ones in the city, are aware of how much this costs. It will be fine while Eaton is contributing to the merger, and I would support that if that were going to be the continuing case. If that is no longer the case, the commissioners will have to watch very closely so it doesn't get out of control, the spending. I believe that this is a budget time bomb for the county. If it ever gets to the point where we're discussing putting something on the ballot to pay for public safety, because we can no longer afford to fund this and from the general fund, I would want the public to know that that is when the Rodney Creech and Chris Day budget time bomb has exploded.
Put a name on it.
Yes, kind of like Obamacare.
Well, I'm not as prepared with a written statement, but I can tell you I've been consistent from day one. And the city of Eaton is in Preble County, and I appreciate the people in the city of Eaton that pay their taxes just as I do out in the county. I've said that since day one, and I still stand beside it. Why should a person that lives in the city of Eaton be penalized because they live in the city of Eaton? Why should they pay more for a service than I do, or Denise Robertson that lives out in the country, or Commissioner Day that lives in West Alexandria? It makes absolutely no sense. I'm proud to be from a community. I've met with other counties where they wanted to do this, and the relationship between the county and their city was so poor, Greenville being one of them. They want to do it, but they don't get along. I'm proud to be from a community that gets along with the city. We get a lot accomplished. I look forward to working with you more in the future. Teamwork makes the dream work. That was my slogan, not my slogan, that was our school slogan back when I was in high school, and I still live by it today. We'll accomplish a lot more together than we're ever going to accomplish alone. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm proud to be a part of this. I'm actually glad that my name's on it. Because we've been trying to do this for 20 years. Mr. Golden tried to give me the credit of coming up with this 2 years ago, but I think we just heard Wessler came up with it in 2014 when I was in office, so that's good information for you. But anyway, I wish this was my idea because it's a no-brainer. Taking two inefficient operations and combining them and making one that's going to actually get the job done. Which is actually all the people that Denise has invited today. They're here every time she's against something. You guys, that's what you're for. You're for being more efficient and combining services and working more efficient. Why are you against this? I mean, I'm not surprised that you're here. Every time there's an issue that Denise is against, you're here, and I appreciate your support for her. But you need to look out for the county, because this is definitely what's best for the city of Eaton. It's definitely what's best for Preble County, and I'm proud to be a part of it. As far as backroom deals, don't know of any of those occurring. I do know of a lot of communication occurring, which is very, very important between entities when we're trying to get things accomplished. I'm glad that we're open and able to get anything you guys want. It's all record. Everything's been in the paper. To say that nothing's been talked about in these meetings is false, because if you pull the Register Herald out, that's where they get all their information from our public meetings. And they've got all the numbers in there. They've had all the data in there. How you found out about this is because of the paper and Denise. And honestly, we have nothing to hide. What do you want to know? This is the best move I think I've made as a commissioner since I've been elected.
Do you want me to
I'm
answer
proud
that,
support
Rodney?
it. So I thank you for working with us, and I tell you, I appreciate the citizens of Eaton. I appreciate their tax base, and I hope you do continue to grow, because if we have to add 911 people because you guys are growing, praise Jesus. That would be beautiful.
Just for the record, we all pay city taxes by working here. We pay.
Yeah. Talking
So I
property
do
sale.
pay, I do pay city taxes.
Most of our sales tax comes from the city. You could be thanking for that business. That's where I stand.
Well, from my perspective, we've been looking at this for probably 3+ years. When we first started looking at consolidation, go back to address some of the things that were brought up earlier. They've been talking for 2+ years about the mandates that they're going to come down with for dispatch. They still haven't done it. The legislature has not done it yet, but they are going to come up with that. I don't know when they will act on that. It's like a lot of other things, but they will act on that at some point in time. When we first started looking at this, one of the big challenges that we looked at was the understaffed dispatch of 2 dispatch centers. Basically, we knew back 2+ years ago that our dispatch center was understaffed along with the city of Eaton. We just don't have the people and the times that, when high call volumes, things of that nature, we each have one sitting in 2 separate rooms and they got to bounce things back and forth. We knew that was an issue, and we knew at the county level, along with the city, knew that was going to have to be corrected and addressed at some point in time. With that being said, when we first started looking at this, we were looking at $3.1 million in cost to just get the capital in line due to several reasons. And throughout the last couple of years, changes in technology, changes in the way we do business, the costs coming down on the equipment. As of about a year ago, the sheriff, City of Eaton, and myself sat down and looked at some things as far as the cost, and the cost that we came up with, it greatly decreased to about $600,000-700,000 for capital costs. And we knew as a county that we were going to have to move forward either way. I think everybody here will acknowledge that. So at that point, we started looking at a plan to put this in place, and we could have done it on our own, or we could do it with the joint venture of the City of Eaton. Some of the things in the plan, and I don't have my sheet handy.
This is a public record, by the way.
Some of the monies in the plan is not only helping the city, but also helping every other emergency unit in the county to upgrade. And without getting down in the weeds, the technology has changed. Just in upgrading the towers alone is going to be over $1 million. If we go to the Marks, which is the system that the county is currently on, a lot of the communities have gone partially to. Part of this plan is to purchase pagers for all of the volunteer departments that don't have that, to get everybody on the same technology, which I think that across the board is a good thing. That way everybody has the best technology available, and everybody's on the same page. The other part of that is upgrading some of our early warning systems that are antiquated and not working correctly. So there's a part of this that's to the tune of about $300,000 that benefits everybody in the county. That's the entire Preble County. Then we get down to updating our records management system, things of that nature. This is the part that we would have to do anyway. The top part, the 300 and some thousand that we're talking about, we were going to have to take care of that in one form or another. 1.1 million to upgrade our VHF system versus switching to the marks. To me, it was a no-brainer. This is cost effective. We discussed this in open session. The sheriff's been in here, discussed this. As we go through this, we will be able to, hopefully, for around $600,000, have this in place. And hopefully, in looking at this, and there's unknowns, there's always unknowns, but hopefully in looking at this plan, there's been some things put in place that hopefully we don't have major capital expenditures for a long time. There's always going to be something, but we've tried to come up with a plan to cover everybody in the county and cover everybody efficiently. Now, to address the ongoing cost for personnel, if we did not include the city with this, we were going to have those anyway. We're going to have to add personnel one way or the other to bring staffing up to where we need to be. I think that's a given. I think that at this point, is there going to be some unknowns? Yes, there are. Are we going to have some loss of revenue down the road, as Jeff alluded to? Yes, we will. I don't know what those are. They've thrown a lot of figures out. This has been a moving target. But as I can tell you, sitting here and going through some rough financial times, we've had that for several years, and I feel we've done a pretty good job of managing the county's funds. We went through some tough times and had to make some tough cuts, but we've also rebounded pretty well, and I think we can continue doing that. The bottom line in this is I believe that this is the best thing for all of the residents in Preble County. I believe that the consolidation is going to be more efficient. Does it come at a cost? Yes, it comes at a cost. But I think that getting one dispatch center to dispatch all of our people so that when whatever the crisis is, that there's people in the same room that can look across at each other and know what's going on. Whether they're telling the city of Eaton, the village of Camden, the sheriff, whomever, they're communicating in a joint effort, so we're not bouncing things back and forth. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything bad about either dispatch service, but there's a lack when that ball keeps getting batted back and forth, and you guys know it happens quite a bit. So I believe this is the best service for Preble County residents.
I think well covered. I think the take home here is, if the city of Eaton, if we would not have done this dispatch merger, one of the options was for them to outsource outside of the county. Now, how would we feel about, because who wants to spend that much money up front? They'd have to spend, over $500,000 to keep their system up with ours, plus staffing. But if they would have left the county, we would have been left with part of our county not being covered by the county. Think of that. Number two is, we would have had to fully, we're having the same amount of staff with or without Eaton. And based on the mandate that is coming, that we hear is coming, we would have had to meet the minimum staffing, which we should be meeting it anyway. I don't even throw the word mandate in there because it gets misconstrued. But let's just keep in mind, we would have spent the same amount of money, and I'm glad that we have Eaton coming on board with over $750,000 to help us offset this cost, because I'll tell you what, you want to talk about a levy? If we would have had to do this by ourselves, there would have been a levy. No guarantees.
And I don't disagree,
So-
and I think that the merger would be fine. I just disagree with the contract ending after 3 years, because I think that the size of Eaton justifies partnering financially into the future. I don't disagree with the merger. I think it should happen. I think we need one piece out. I think we should provide the 911 services to the citizens. Non-emergency calls, that's another discussion. I don't think we really need to be paying for Eaton's non-emergency calls. There are a lot of them. But I agree with the merger. I just don't think that the contract should end after 3 years. In May of 2020, we'll have this discussion again, and we'll talk about it then.
Well, one thing I heard in the news today that Clark County is currently in discussions with they have 3 PSEPs now, and they're going through this same discussion, trying to figure out, and I don't know any of the details. I heard what was on the news, and there were several numbers thrown out, but they have some millions of dollars worth of infrastructure and things, is what I've heard. So I'm not quoting any, I just heard or relaying what I heard today. They're in the same discussions. The one thing that I will say, they're going to have their situation's unique to them. They're going to have to work it out. We've looked at Butler County. We've looked at some of the others. They're all unique depending on the players. So it's a moving target. There's no cookie cutter to stamp this out. I think it's a work in progress, and I think it's a work in progress that we can do with the city along with all the other entities in the county.
Chris, I think you explained that quite well. Congratulate you for it. I think my main objection is, and it's not the merging with the city of Eaton so much, it is the process that we got here and the lack of, I mean, come on, if you'd done this 6 months ago, a year ago, discuss these things, have them on the agenda, let the people come in and explain as you just did. I think that would have been a major, major help. I really do. Now, I understand where Denise is coming from, the probable hole figured in with CAUV and the Medicare cuts. That's something that's going to have to be dealt with. And Rodney, we don't apparently get along too well. He's a nice guy outside here. We get along just fine. But the idea of 2.5 years ago, you were entirely in favor of a 1.5 mil tax. I could bring up the video and show it to you. Now, times change. I understand that. But Chris, I really do think you did an excellent job of it.
Well, and I appreciate that, Jeff. I guess the whole thing of this is we've been fortunate that we've taken our time to getting to where we are.
I'm glad all you guys get along together. I really am.
And I'm going to be real honest, we just probably within the last month and a half, 2 months, firmed up these numbers because it's been a moving target. The technology's changed. They're refining the Zerker data collection system. That's just being rolled out, and this is a huge asset, and the cost has gone down by 50%. So those numbers are just getting firmed up. I understand trying to get the information out in front. The problem is, once you put a number out there, somebody wants to hang on to that number.
So what happened 2 years ago with the levy? People was hanging on to stuff.
Well, before, had you had your way, we would be collecting a 1.5 mil levy that you fully supported at the time.
At the time, that was the best
You
thing
were
to
ready
do.
to campaign for it. Yeah, well, I'm just saying that now, as he's pointed out, these costs have come down. So
One
it
thing-
was some benefit to the discussion.
One thing I would just like for you to at least listen to is, trust me, I was in full support of moving forward, but as we were looking at this at the 11th hour, you know, after doing some research and talking to our folks in Columbus, they're telling us, where are you at? And basically they said, don't do any more. You're as far as you need to be at this time. Technology's evolving.
I remember talking to you about this when you were debating Joe Ringer, and you said that, no, the subject changed.
Right.
That's fine. I understand that.
So where we're at now, I think it's as low as we're going to get down to our technology. And I honestly, I think as a county, we need to move forward and take advantage of this because we're getting a pretty good deal right now on some of this equipment. Some of the equipment's a one-time fee, which is being distributed out to the entire county. I think it's a no-brainer on that. I think that everyone sitting here looks at that as a no-brainer because we're providing the updated marks and things of that nature.
As long as it can be re-looked at in 3 years, which I understand is, it's gonna happen, I think you know, sure, I'll agree with you. Now, I've taken enough time, I interrupted Nathan last time, and I apologize for that. So.
Like I said, I think that it's a moving target. I appreciate your questions. I truly do. I think it's going to be a moving target, and I can tell you, in sitting here, this is my 9th year in sitting here, and no matter what decision we've made, whether it be children's services, we're looking at jail issues with female inmates, it's going to be a moving target, folks, and we're going to have to deal with it. I don't know all the answers, but I would hope that you would at least give us enough courtesy to say that we've done a pretty good job with the county finances today.
So far.
Oh, you want me to say that? Sure, I can
No,
say it.
I mean, that's up to
Yeah,
you.
no, I understand it's 6.4 million, and I think that's great. As I said earlier, my concern is the 200,000 here, 200,000 plus that you'll lose in 3 years from the city of Eaton, the 500,000 or 600,000 from the Medicaid and CAUV loss that Nathan talked about. Somebody's going to have to deal with that in a few years. And so, no, is it great right now? Sure.
Well, no, the one thing that I will say to that is we don't know what the CAUV loss is. It has not been certified yet. We're supposed to be getting that certification before long. We don't know where the MCO tax is going to land. That's still up in the air. They're still trying to figure out how to deal with that in Columbus. I guarantee you we're going to see a loss, but I will go back and we've seen the loss in local government.
Mhm.
We've seen the casino tax that was going to backfill that. We've seen that not hit its marks.
Sure.
So we've worked with that. I guess the one thing that I would hope that you would keep in the back of your mind is we understand this and we're looking at these numbers down the road so that we're keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on, and if we have to react, we will.
Well, I think the main thing is too, I mean, we live this stuff every day. I love it, and you know, there's a lot of unknowns, but we're not doing this blindfolded. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios out there. I know, please let me, there's been so much thought and discussion put into this. This is not a reaction, it's not a blindfolded throwing a dart. I mean, there's been a lot of thought put into this, and I guess to reiterate the sheet that any of you can get, you know, we're looking at spending $600,000 with or without the city of Eaton.
Right.
Okay? No matter what, we're spending $600,000. If Eaton outsources, or even if they, we're still adding $200,000 in payroll. We're fortunate to have their $775,000, or there would be a levy on really, really, really soon. So we're rolling the dice, actually, to not put a levy on. Was I in full support of the levy at that time? We all were. Well, I mean,
I was not.
when I say we all were, all the players that knew what was, that was looking at it. What options do we have?
Right.
We gotta provide a service and it has to be paid for. It's in black and white. Nobody wants to spend $1.5 million on upgrading cell towers. Guess what? They're 10 years old, they're out of date. So are we going out and saying, hey, we're buying a brand new Corvette with all the bells and whistles? No, we're updating our 911 system. And that, I'll tell you what, in talking with people in the county, which I do every day, that's all I do, this is a huge concern. And I appreciate you guys coming in and voicing your opinion, but where I talk, Jeff, you gotta have these numbers, because guess what? It sounds bad, hey, they're spending money. No, we're spending money where it needs to be spent. You know, we're rolling the dice, because guaranteed levy if we did not have the city of Eaton, guaranteed.
I think perhaps you are also missing the point.
I'm sorry?
You are also missing the point. When you ran, you had a video out there against Washington-style politics. One of the main things people identify with Washington-style politics is not inclusion or not full-out disclosure. You say anybody can get this. Well, how are they supposed to know it even exists when from May 22nd, 2015 to September 25th, 2017, there's nothing about the merger on the county commission's agenda. Not one thing. So to say that, well, we talked about in the meetings, how is anybody supposed to know You want to say that people are
Get the
uneducated,
paper,
but
right?
you won't.
Not everyone does.
Now, you know, I get the Register Herald. You're absolutely right, always have. But I know a good many people in the northern part of the county, and even in the southern part of the county, they don't get it. And to say that, you know, what's in the paper, that's not it. Now, would all those people show up because you put it on the commission agenda? Probably not. But some of them will. There's some here, yes, they showed up in 2015. Let's hope they don't have to show up over the same issue in 3 years. But, you know, it is a matter of full disclosure. You just can't sit there and say people are uneducated. You're the ones that are supposed to be educating them. And if they can't tell or find out when this stuff is occurring, you can't hold them accountable for not having attended or not knowing something. That's your responsibility.
Well, when I say people are uneducated, I don't mean uneducated as far as their
Well,
scholar ability. I'm talking about show up and be against something and not know why. You don't even know the numbers.
And not an hour ago, you wouldn't give me numbers because you said.
Hey, if you're getting up there and talking, you should have them. I've got all the numbers. I'll tell you anything you want to know.
You
But I guess my point
Let me put it this
is,
way, Rodney.
hold on, my point is.
2.5 years ago, you had all the numbers, and all those numbers are wrong. 2.5 years, yes, they are. Otherwise, we would have had you wanted a $1.5 million levy. You can't.
You're Monday morning quarterbacking. You can't go back 2 years ago and say numbers are wrong. They were the best numbers we had at the time.
And you were wrong. So these numbers could be wrong.
Still not wrong. It's a good thing we, technology and
Look, I
you
hope
can tell
it
the
works
show's the
out.
sheriff's numbers. You can tell him.
I hope it works out. I hope you save some money.
He should be here in a few minutes. You can tell me he's wrong.
I thought you perhaps calling everybody.
I didn't call anybody.
Then, well, whatever. I'm glad you're showing up.
I can tell you right now, I didn't call. Did I call any of you guys? Nice guess.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Didn't call one of you. Can't assume, Jeff.
Further discussion? Connie, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Creech?
Yes.
Commissioner Robertson?
No.
Commissioner Day?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.
Thank you.